The Arab-Israeli War of 1948, also known as Israel's War of Independence, lasted 15 months and claimed over 6,000 Israeli lives. Totaling nearly 1% of the country's Jewish population, soldiers of all skill levels took up arms on the ground. Others, like Jan Frohlich, took to the sky. This wasn't Jan's first jump as a paratrooper, nor was it his first war. But this war was different. Jan glided down to the fighting below with physical and mental strength, the kind of personal power he'd all but lost a handful of years earlier. Back then, he'd been a shell of himself, a man burdened with starvation and beaten regularly.
What I went through is hard to forget. Being a Jewish and suffer as a Jew so much, nobody can help you.
I'm Doug Frazier, and this is Stars Among Us. Jan was born in Písek, Czechoslovakia, to a Jewish father and Catholic mother. He would bring a flock of his Catholic friends to synagogue for a special treat: free candy.
The rabbi told me, Jan, you cannot bring the kids. They are not Jewish. I says, why not? They like the candy like I do. That was my excuse.
Jan's father made his living selling materials to factories. He, his wife, and 5 children lived in a mostly non-Jewish neighborhood. People made fun of him for being Jewish, but when it came to business, he didn't take it personally.
He didn't care. He did business with everybody.
The joy of childhood shifted when Jan and his siblings were no longer allowed to go to school. Anti-Semitism had become a way of life for millions. It was only a matter of time before it seeped into the education systems. Desperate, Jan's mother visited her priest.
So she went to him and she says, Father, you see, I have a problem. I got 5 kids. They cannot go to school anymore because I married a Jewish fellow. I loved him. We love each other. Because of that, they consider me Jewish.
The priest denied her request to transfer the kids to Catholicism. Instead, he told Jan to get his sisters and brother and meet him tomorrow morning. They would be taken to the Gestapo. Jan was 13 years old when he arrived at Gestapo headquarters in Prague with his 4 siblings. They were turning themselves in. They were detained and thrown into a cellar.
Take us by the shirt and threw us in the cellar. When they threw me down the cellar, I stand up right away. I said, hey, kids, we will not cry. You will sink.
That night, 5 voices sang out, blissfully ignorant of what lay ahead. The next morning, a voice called down to them.
You just hear one voice, Jewish house, Jewish out.
They were given an address and instructed to walk to the railroad station. They found a train labeled with a sign reading, reserved for Jews. Jan asked his fellow passengers where the train was going. Theresienstadt, they told him.
In Ghetto was an open city. That's a free city. You can walk anywhere you want.
Jan was separated from his sisters, who attended a Jewish school in the ghetto. His youngest sister, just 3 years old, was sent to a children's house in the school. Food was sparse, but Jan remembers what he had was good. He didn't worry about his parents, who stayed behind in Czechoslovakia. On occasion, the children received a package of potatoes from their mother. Life in the ghetto for Jan was surprisingly pleasant. He hung out with the other boys. He played sports.
We had a good life. We played ping pong, we played football. My favorite sport was soccer. I wanted to be professional soccer player after the war.
3 years later, at age 16, Jan was on the first transport out of the ghetto. His sister stayed behind while he was taken to a place called Auschwitz. Jan had no idea what Auschwitz was, so nothing seemed out of the ordinary. He thought he was going there just to work.
I had my little bag. In the back I had my ping pong racket and all that, anything what was for sport. The minute you came, you knew this is not Theresienstadt. It was cold, very cold, freezing. All of a sudden the door of my train opened and some guy came in and he was screaming, "All Jews out!" And he picked me up too and threw me out of the train. And I look at him and I remember his face.
Jan was enraged. He left his bag on the ground and walked behind the train in search of a weapon. He found a stone.
I took the stone, I threw the stone right on that guy, I hit him in the head.
Nobody saw who threw the stone, and if they did, they didn't say.
I went back to the train, I looked for my racket, the ping pong racket. I couldn't find it.
Jan's one prized possession was gone. It's uncertain where his bag went, but it likely wound up with the other possessions that were taken from the Jews upon arrival. Personal artifacts were stripped, creating a collection of jewelry and watches, diamonds and fur coats, accumulating piles of treasures at each concentration camp. Jan was placed in a line. The man at the end of that line was Dr. Josef Mengele, nicknamed the Angel of Death for the notoriously inhumane medical experiments he conducted at Auschwitz.
He said, "To the right." So I turned to the right.
After heading right, Jan overheard a conversation between Dr. Mengele and a musician.
The Mengele told him, "We need people like you to play in sanatorium. Would you like it?" He said, "Yes." He told him left. Then I find out that everybody who went to the left went to the gas chamber. We had to undress completely naked in the room.
There, everyone's hair and beards were shaved off.
I had before long blonde hair, all of a sudden nothing.
It was an act of dehumanization, a physical signifier of those imprisoned and those in charge, and a way to cut down on the pungent smell of burning hair in the crematoriums.
From there they threw us to the room where there was a big shower. They put first of all lots of hot water on you, then cold water on you.
Leather shoes were thrown to each of them, which soaked in the water. Jan's were child-size. He had to force his feet into them.
Outside was ice, cold. You stay down there for 3 hours in the ice cold place. Many people fall right down there. They didn't survive.
Those still alive were called to pick up their clothes. 18 days later, without having a single bite of food, thinking was a difficult task. But one thought stuck with Jan.
I knew one thing: we have to escape.
Unfortunately, an escape never happened, but he and the others had hope. There's a term in psychology known as the delusion of reprieve. The thought is that, at the last minute, a prisoner about to enter the gas chamber or whose neck was wrapped in a noose would be excused. But that was just hope talking, and in a concentration camp, hope swung from the rafters, breathed in deadly gases, burned bright in the crematoriums. Hope entered through barbed wire gates and left through smoke. Jan remained in Auschwitz for a month before being moved to Kaufering, a subcamp of the Dachau concentration camp. Getting tattooed before the transport was mandatory. Through sheer good timing, Jan skipped getting a tattoo. He got on the train and was given a big piece of bread.
So I was hungry. I didn't eat in many days. So bread, and I give you such a big sausage. The sausage was made from people, human beef.
Jan's first job at Kaufering was working in underground airplane hangars. When there wasn't enough work there, he was forced to work outside.
There was no food, and you work till you drop dead. People can bite you. They were so hungry, they eat your feet. And then in the camp, you can see thousands, 100,000 dead people. And if you survive, you're lucky.
Skipping the tattoo didn't go unnoticed. When a guard asked Jan for his number, he didn't have one to give.
So he beat me, and then he called it. He says, this guy must have got 25 hits with a shower handle. Blood was rinsing from my face, from my body. I wake up in the place. It was cold, all of a sudden I feel cold. And I'm naked. I lying between 60 dead people, one over another one. So I start to crawl between the people out. That's where I find out that I was considered dead.
With what little energy he had left, he crawled into an empty building where he found a pile of straw and slept.
The Americans was about 5 miles from them, and Russian about 20 miles.
After 11 months in the camp, freedom was on its way.
We see American tanks, and all of a sudden one American driving a jeep, and he says, come on, he put us in his jeep.
Following his recuperation in Prague, Jan moved to Haifa and became a paratrooper, fighting in Israel's War of 1948. He made 270 jumps, both as an instructor and a soldier, and rose to the rank of captain in the Israeli army. His blonde hair and blue eyes earned him a nickname, Johnny, because he looked like a British paratrooper.
You look exactly alike, so they say this is our Johnny.
Jan spent his last years in Norfolk, Virginia, where a crane accident in his backyard nearly took his life. He told his wife, if Hitler couldn't kill me, nothing will. Stars Among Us is brought to you by the Holocaust Commission of the United Jewish Federation of Tidewater and other fine sponsors, and has been funded in part by a grant from Virginia Humanities. If you're interested in finding out more about the Holocaust and Jan Frohlich's story, please visit holocaustcommission.org/starsamongus. Our producer is Elka Mennick. Our executive producers are Wendy Duran-Auerbach and Gail Litwin-Flax. Stars Among Us is distributed by WHRO Public Media.